Good morning, everyone. I hope you are having a great day. We'll start with the we'll start the topic from deployment to the decommissioning, a strategic approach to the endpoint security lifecycle management. For this topic, I'll brief you about what is the exactly endpoint is, how to manage the endpoint securely for each stage of the deployment and the maintenance, and for every stage, and what are the security checkpoints which you needs to be remembered. So that I'll going to be covered. But before moving forward, about me. So I'm Dhruv Bhavsar. I work in the miniOrange from like past 5+ years, and I am working with the cloud and the endpoint security from past 2 to 3 years. Okay. I hope you all can hear me, right? Okay. So regarding the topic, what is the endpoint? So does anyone has any idea what is the endpoint called, or do you use endpoint in your real life? Yeah. So laptops, mobile phones, all of these endpoints are your endpoints which connects to the network, and your organization system can be connected, your data can be transferred. So all these kind of category devices called endpoints. Here, if we categorize in a specific organization manner, so it's a laptop. The second one is the mobile phone, which you generally use for your work applications or for the work data. Then it's the servers like the EC2 servers or the Google Cloud servers, where you deploy your applications and manage the data through it. And the last but not least is the IoT devices, because many of the organization uses that as well for their organization perspective. So why it matters? Like, is there any specific reason we are talking about the endpoint right now? Data is there, one thing. But if we talk about the importance, this is the primary access point. So everyone needs the laptops or the mobile phones to work with their organization. Like if you want to work with the Google Workspace or maybe the email application, right? So for the email application, you need a device. So this is the key primary point which you need to access all your work applications or to do work. So if we see in our organization, there's a diverse ecosystem, because there is no only one specific type of device which you are required to work. You require Windows OS, you require Linux OS, you require Mac OS, you sometimes require the mobile phones as well to work with your convenience or maybe with your ease. So that makes a diverse ecosystem for the endpoints. And as the diverse ecosystem is there, so the key target for the cyber attacks also increases, because the surface of the attack where any attacker can like put malwares or the ransomwares, that attack surface increases. So that's why the endpoint security is like primary key which organization needs to be implemented in every organization. So if we talk about in perspective of the cybersecurity, why it's critical. So the first is to prevent unauthorized access to the data breaches. So let's say if my system is like anyone stolen my system, right? If I don't have a password or if there is no proper security on my laptop, so anyone can access my work data and maybe they can leak, they can sell it out to the other major companies. So for those scenarios, to prevent that, we require that my organization is implemented with a secure endpoint security. Similarly, to protect from the malwares, because like the employees can download anything at any time, right? So they don't even check what they are downloading, what they are accessing. So sometimes after the download, maybe a malware or maybe a ransomware can be there. And in nowadays, you can see the phishing attacks are most common, because like anyone can click on a like scam link and they got scammed, right? So due to that, sometimes it's in the B2B case or maybe business to business case, it's like someone just downloaded any driver or something like that from the open platform, internet platform, and they don't even know that they are tracking down with some attackers. Their data is being tracked or their data is being sent to somewhere else. So to prevent those kind of scenarios, it's very critical. Then ensure the compliance of the regulation and the industry standards, because the day by day IT infrastructure is increasing, right? So government is also applying some laws and regulations for the industry that at least needs to be maintained this kind of standard, so that you are eligible for a specific security standards, because they also don't want that any company's data is got being leaked or something like that. So these are some points. That's why it's critical for the cybersecurity. So if everyone knows that these are the critical endpoints, then what is the challenge? Why not organization is able to implement this? There may be some challenge because of that. They are like still struggling to implement the security posture management of this complete endpoint management and their security in their organization. So let's see. The first is the basically of complexity of managing endpoint diversity. As I mentioned, there are many types of endpoints. Like first is my Windows devices. This is the basic device where most of the people uses. The second one is Mac OS. The operating system itself is changed. So managing the security into that particular system is also being changed. Then compliance and regulations according to the government, because according to government there are some compliance, like if I mention GDPR or HIPAA compliance for the healthcare. So those compliance needs to be implemented in a organization, so that considers the endpoint security, your user security, your infrastructure company security. All these points were covered over there. Then the third part is monitoring and ensuring the data flow. So let's say even somehow you are able to manage that my particular device or the laptop device is managed by me. But do you know what your users are doing into that? Like what data they are sharing to the external resources. Maybe it's not stolen, but threat can be internal, right? If a company employee just downloaded all the company's customer data and try to upload it on the Dropbox or maybe somewhere else to just leak it over there, or maybe just sell it out. So you need to ensure that what is the data flow which is going from the endpoint to the external devices. And the last but not least is the BYOD case, which is bring your own device. So after the COVID pandemic, the company's culture of working mode is changed, because most of the employee was work from home from the COVID, and it's still now, like still some of the companies are on the hybrid mode, right? So what are the challenges we are facing over there? We'll see in depth one by one. So the first one is the complexity of managing endpoint diversity. As I mentioned, there are different types of servers, laptops, IoT devices which needs to be managed, and every endpoint requires a different kind of security measures. And those policies needs to be implemented by the IT admin so that the data and your infrastructure is secure enough. And it's difficult to manage across the diverse endpoints. Then moving forward with the monitoring and the ensuring the data security flow. So in that, tracking data sent from the endpoint to the external network, because either you can put a firewall or maybe you can track down the system that what accessing it's by the users. But what they are sending and what they are accessing, that level of network tracking needs to be there. Then risk include with the unauthorized data sharing, because we need to figure it out what exactly data is your critical or the sensitive that needs to be secure. But maybe, for example, in organization, you can send one file to another employee, so that needs to be shared. But let's say if someone sharing the credit card information to somewhere else, or maybe your Aadhaar card information, so those kind of sensitive information should not be shared from the endpoint to the any other external endpoint, or maybe to the public world, right? So those kind of securities we need to measure. Then the real-time monitoring and security data channels is also important. So we can detect sometimes that a person 2 months ago did this particular data breach. But if we are about to know this after 2 months, it's not the right security practice, right? Because there should be a specific system where if someone breaches the data, there should be an alert coming that, yeah, at this particular time, someone trying to leak your data. because you also don't want that 2 महीने बाद मुझे पता पड़ रहा है कि हाँ मेरी कंपनी का कुछ तो चोरी हो गया था. So that is the thing. Then it's compliance and regulatory basis. So the framework like GDPR, HIPAA, and there are more like ISO 27000, ISO 9000. There are more compliance which is making organizations to work strictly according to their data and the security perspective. And meeting those standards itself is a very tough task, because there are many things which needs to be keep in mind. And once you achieve that, after achieving that particular compliance, the maintaining that compliance and auditing is also one of the important thing, because you want that thing to be continue, keep going, right? Then there is a failure of comply. The results is basically penalties or the financial losses. So if someone just not able to meet the standards, it can be financial losses, because many of their clients or many of their customer also wants that if I am using your product or I am using your services, I want that you are compliant with the security like GDPR and the HIPAA compliance based on the industry levels. Then the last one is the BYOD policies. So employees are nowadays using their personal devices to doing the work application access or doing the work, right? So in those particular systems, they are using their personal Gmail accounts as well, their company emails accounts as well. So there is no track on the IT admin that what they are doing. Like they have just provided the credential to them that, yeah, you can use this for work applications or working. But they have no track what they are downloading, what they are sending to the customers. So that particular thing also called as a shadow IT, basically to access your all the application unauthorized in an unauthorized way into their personal devices. So that is also being called shadow IT. And this particular remote and hybrid work culture after the COVID impact, like having the most of the challenges in the organizations nowadays. So if I talk about one of the example in 2024, so AT&T company, I guess everyone knows, right? So it also fell down one data breach in 2024 around July. So one of the customer or one of the employee, I guess, so one of the employer downloaded the customer data illegally in one of the cloud in platform. So as you can see here in this particular case study, the thread was inside your company and they were not aware of it that the organization's employee can also like stole the data. And the compromised data was also included most of the customers' calls, their text records, and their AT&T and cellular customers were there, all the customers. And if you want to see the complete case study over there, there's a QR code which you can scan it, and it will open a link where they are also accepting that, yeah, their data was being leaked because of their weak security structure. If anyone wants to scan the QR code, they can do it right now. Okay. So is it really hard to manage the endpoint security? Any answer? Like anyone is from the organization where they are like not able to manage their endpoints and managing the security? So is it really hard to manage the endpoints?
It's costly.
Is it costly? Okay. Yeah.
I did it like they are what countries.
Okay.
They were top of the second lately. And no TV.
Right, right, right.
And he's telling his if you ever made it over the identity locally, this time of is to like the town to the nation everything.
Yeah. Yes. So definitely it's hard, but not really, because there are some tools in the market which can be used to implement these security checkpoints and which helps you out to the discover what exactly your organization is doing, or even they can track it down the user's activity as well into the endpoints. So let's see how we can do it. So we need a lifecycle management for that, basically the endpoint lifecycle management. So what is the endpoint lifecycle management is, if you consider as an organization perspective, what happens is any endpoint is coming to me. First, I need to onboard that particular endpoint. So I need to make sure while onboarding the endpoint, what are the security checks I need to implement. The second is monitoring. Once I have given to the employee, after giving it to the employee, what exactly the employee is doing, that monitoring should be in the place. Then the maintenance of the security pages, like the applying the OS patches or maybe the data backup, this kind of things we will require, because if any time of the point, if anyone stole the data or maybe someone stole the endpoint, so at least we have the backup of the data. Then the last one is the decommissioning. Basically, when we are like removing the endpoint from your organization, what should be the specific process which needs to be follow, and again new endpoint will come, so the cycle keeps go on. So we'll check what are the security checkpoints required for each stage. The first one is basically the onboarding. So for the onboarding, first check is the device authentication. We need to verify if the device is authenticated by from the reseller or maybe from the company is not. The second thing is they are giving which OS they are giving. If you are giving the endpoint to a specific user, that identity we needs to be verified. Only that identity should be able to access that particular endpoint. This kind of security checks we need to verify. The second one is the endpoint configuration. So basically we need to implement the standardized security settings like firewall, encryption of the hard drive, because sometimes they can install the hard drive, right? Like they can just remove it and use the hard drive to other systems. So if your hard drive is not encrypted, your data can be easily read. So that needs to be implemented. Then the access control policy. You probably have seen in many organizations that the end users don't have the admin privileges. So they cannot install anything on their system. Like they need to ask their IT admin that I require this application for my work, and they need to be installed via the IT admin. So this kind of security level needs to be implemented, the access control thing, so that user can perform the action according to his privilege role only. And the last one is initial security baseline. So basically to install the antivirus, anti-malware, endpoint detection tool, this should be in the place so that at least your onboarding process security checks are done. So once you check all this thing, then your onboarding process is secure enough so that you can ensure that, yeah, my endpoint is ready to provide to the employees and they can use it for their work. Now, at the time of monitoring, so once, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we can share the PPT with you. The second one is the monitoring part. Once you monitor it, so the real-time threat detection should be there, because we don't want that if someone is trying to install or anything doing illegally or unauthorized way, it should be detected at the same time. So EDR tools generally do that. What EDR tool do is basically it installs one agent into the Windows or maybe whatever the OS you are using. That install basically agent is like providing the data to the IT admin that this is the data in the current system right now, and these are the things which is doing by the employee. It detects, and at the real time whenever someone tries to leak the data, it gives an alert to the IT admin that the unauthorized way data is going to be outside of your endpoint. The second one is the network traffic analysis. So whatever the employee is doing in unauthorized behavior way, that should identify, that can be that should be there. The third one is the patch management. So if you talk about the patch management is your Gmail application or maybe other application is working on the right set of upgraded version or not. If there is a vulnerability in the older version of the any software, it should be updated, right? So that needs to be there. Then alert mechanism, so that a proper alerting to the admin will be there for the any suspicious activity. If you check all this endpoint, so your monitoring phase of the endpoint lifecycle management is secure enough. Those are the checkpoints. Then moving forward is the maintenance. The first one is the regular security updates, which is applying the OS updates, the firmware updates, and the antiviruses, because you have installed everything at the time of onboarding. But generally, like IT admin forgets that those things needs to be upgraded as well with the latest vulnerability fixes, with the latest security check fixes, all these things. The second is backup mechanism. So automated backup of the data should be there, so that at least at the time of incident, we have like the old data, there is no data loss over there. The third one is the periodic audits. So basically auditing is required. So IT admin should like for every quarter or maybe in the 6 month, ask the employer that can you provide me your laptops so that I can do a security check audits. So that particular practice should be there in the organization. And the user training. The most important part is the user training, because if user is not trained enough, then most of the chances the phishing attacks and the malware thing, they can download anything just random from the open internet and they got scammed. So that is one important thing. Then moving forward is the decommissioning part. So if you are like just removing the endpoint, or maybe your old laptops are replaced by the new one, so what are the points which you needs to be covered or at the time of removing those endpoints? The first one is the data wiping. We need to ensure that all the data is wiped and prevent unauthorized recovery, because sometimes there are softwares and tools which can recover the data as well. So you need to ensure that your data is totally wiped from that device before removing that from your organization. The second one is the revoke access, is basically disable all the accounts and the permission linked to the endpoint. As in the onboarding, we are linking a particular user to a device, right? So that needs to be like disabled as well. Otherwise, if even in the organization, if a senior manager laptops goes into a intern hands, right? So intern can access their accounts and like they can also get the data, or maybe those things which are not should be given to them, to the interns. Then the hardware disposable. So basically a recycle of the hardware should be also properly, so that hard drive or maybe the RAM or whatever the data security over there should be properly recycled over there. Then the last one is the auditing trail, to maintain the logs of the decommissioning activities for the compliance purpose. So make sure you have all the logs after the decommissioning that is stored somewhere else, so that at the time of later on, at least you have the data to go through it and analyze the things. So if all these onboarding points of the life cycle is managed by an organization, what will be the benefit to the organization? The first one is basically enhance the security posture management, which is like you can at least tension free in your life, that yeah, at least I have secure enough to my endpoints and I have activity tracking. So if anything happens or anything goes wrong, at least you can track it down. The second one is it improves your compliances, the company compliance, it improves and reduce the risk mitigations. And the last one is operational efficiency and the cost saving. So as he mentioned, it's the costly solution, but yeah, if you implement this, it in the future from the major loss, it prevents, because if your data is the most crucial thing from the implementing this, right? So these are some benefits which organizational perspective is there. So if I talk about a case study, few months ago, I got a customer where his all the endpoints were open basically. So like they have provided the company devices to their employees, but their employees can also access those work applications and everything into their personal devices as well. So there is no visibility, there is no restriction in their organization, but when a data got leaked, they got aware about it and they started implementing it. but they don't have any idea how to secure it. Their requirement was, I want to restrict my all work application within my company devices and the data should be secure enough. That's all they wanted. But how we provide the solution? Because as a solution provider, we need to ensure that there is no point which is left to leak the data, right? So the first we need to be ensure that identities are the secure, because the user who is going to access their account, those needs to be secure. The app restriction policy should be applied at the time of authentication so that at least that can be there. The second thing is using device management tools. We need to manage their endpoints, like the laptop devices they are using, the devices, mobile devices they are using. Those needs to be maintained. And once we implement this, then the DLP policy should be there. So basically, we need to identify the attack surface for our organization, that these are the endpoints and this is the crucial data for me. Let's say bank card details for each employees, or maybe the company bank card details are crucial to me. And if some employees have the access of it, I can simply define the classification on the data that this particular data of the bank details should not be shared outside my external devices to from my company devices. So this infrastructure or architecture, if you implement, then you can ensure that, yeah, my specific applications and my data is within my organization's company devices only, right? So what do you think? This is it for the endpoint life security management? Not yet. So where the world is heading to the ELM in right now. So you see that right now in the industry, AI ML integrations are going to be very popular, right? So how they are integrating into the ELM, for what kind of operations and what kind of integrations they are doing. So the first one is the threat intelligence. So you saw that there is a EDR which is required at the time of monitoring to like detect the threats and what are the threats is coming. But that can be classified at a time of onboarding the devices or the endpoints. But like detecting the threat, that requires a human behavioral option. Because let's say I am the employee for my organization. I work, there will be a specific behavior I am working, right? So right now in the softwares, how they are integrating is basically they are providing one AI ML model which works or the lies onto your system, the endpoints. It checks for the 10 to 15 days how the employee is working. It checks the behavior of that employee. Once it detects that, yeah, this employee working behavior is this one, then if it does any suspicious activity, for example, I always log in 9, I'm too punctual that I'll start my working from the 9 to 6 and end my day at the 6 p.m. Okay, and someday, maybe after 6 months or the 5 months, I just woke up at the 1 a.m. at the midnight and just logged in into my account and trying to download some files, which generally I don't do. So at that kind of behavioral thing, this particular AI ML model detects that this is not quite right. It should be flagged. So those kind of AI ML integrations are implementing in the endpoint security lifecycle management, where the AI driven based decision making is there based on the AI ML model, what they have trained it. The second one is the zero trust architecture. I hope like most of the persons are aware of it. As I guess yesterday, Raj mentioned the zero trust security architecture. So what it means is basically do not trust anyone at time of anything. Even if you have the access of any particular work application or for any data, even if someone tries to access it again, you should authenticate them or authorize them again. So that is the case. So there are 5 components which are the zero trust requires. The first one is the identity. So we need to secure the identities. Generally for that, identity and access management products are there. If you like in secure, the second one is the endpoint and the device one, which requires to make sure that your endpoints are secure enough and there is no vulnerability over there. proper OS management or the patch management should be there. The third one is the network where you are connected, maybe the company Wi-Fi network or the VPN server which you are using. Those networks are also protected. The third one is your application workspace. So most of the organization uses like Google Workspace or maybe the Dropbox, Slack, this kind of application they have used to provide the access to for like the ease purpose or maybe for their an organization use. So you need to make sure that the application is accessed based on the specific role or specific privilege and at a certain time which your company wants. And the last one is data security, that your data is also secure enough. So once all these aspects are secure, then you can say that, yeah, my company follows the zero trust architecture. And I also read somewhere in the article that zero trust architecture is not one time thing. Like you cannot do it at first time that I have configured everything. It's it's year over year process, because first you need to ensure that my identities are secure, then you need to ensure your endpoints are secure. So it's a year over year process where you need to make these things secure enough. So for the wrapping up, as an organization, what I need to identify first is proper attack surface within my organization. If all the endpoints are open in my organization or maybe the identities are not secure, that I needs to figure it out, that what are the open surface or the attack surface in my within organization. Then needs to be use the proper right fit products for those implementation. So I have written few of the products, which is generally IAM is for the identity and access management to securing your identities. The CASB is the cloud access security broker, which works for the cloud applications like Google Workspace, Office 365, Dropbox, Slack. This kind of application needs to be secure with the CASB. MDM is basically the management of devices, which is let's say Windows devices you want to manage, Android devices you want to manage, iOS one, or maybe it can be BYOD, bring your own device, or the company provided devices. The third one is the PAM, which is the privilege access management, where all the kind of servers, if you consider, let's say EC2 servers or maybe your Google Cloud servers, where the admin needs to be provided the access, but not with the complete right, only the operations they want to perform. So that needs to be there. Then the last one is the SIEM tool, which is basically a security analysis tool, where all the logs from this particular product goes, and that particular product detects that what is the what are the user insights there, and if any threat opens there, like if any threat happens there, that gives an alert, the SIEM tool. So with this particular set of tools, you can prepare the right set of security posture management for your organization. So it varies from organization to organization, but based on the what is open surface of the attack surface in your organization, you can definitely prepare it. So wrapping up my session here, if anyone has any questions. Yeah.
Good for question. Organizing is something great. Organizations.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been very focused on making sure third-party software is not installed on the laptop.
Right.
Right? But now a significant traffic is going to mobile devices.
Right.
How are organizations making sure that third-party mobile apps are not getting installed? Even though you're going through Google Play Store or Apple Play Store, right?
Right.
Who knows what's in the app?
Right.
How are they making sure of, how are they checking those?
Right. So basically how it works in the mobile phone is there are two OS which is majorly uses. One is the Android, second one is iOS, right? So there is an option with the MDM where you can create a separate work container within your Android phones, and there is a managed application within your iOS phones. So whenever you create a work container, that work container is under control with your IT admin. So they can ensure, or they can see, like they can define that this particular application should be installed into my work container of employees, and your work emails and work applications access is also within that work container only.
So is that also possible on BYOD device?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a firm policy
Right.
that the is that the MDM software?
Yeah. There are MDM softwares.
Okay. The second question is about, and this is a lot of what's coming on TV in the last couple of months. They are noticing, same thing as with laptops. We make sure that pen drives are not getting connected
Right.
to ports. Charging cables. So there's news about charging cables not really charging. I mean,
Right.
they are doing charging, but they're also siphoning of data.
Right.
So is charging cable also coming under endpoint now? Are you saying that?
So charging cable is not an endpoint because that doesn't connects to the network or something like that. It's just connects to your end, like Windows devices, and maybe you can consider the pen drive. Pen drive is also like a hardware, like storage, the data storage thing. So charging cable, is not the data storage. Like you can consider it as a data storage, not the endpoint.
So is that, so now charging cables, are they also being treated under data? So, I mean, it's not supposed to be.
Yeah, it's not supposed to.
Hackers found out a way that you can use a charging cable and hack data from, you can steal data from a mobile. That's the news that came in last couple of months. I mean, someone on TV said, here's an example.
Okay, so
Saying that.
there can be a policy which you can implement because, so basically if the endpoint directly gives to the any employee, it's open until you restrict it down. So you can create a policy that what kind of pen drive should be connected, what kind of charging cable should be connected. That kind of level of policy also you can create it for the Windows devices. If you talk about the iOS or Android, so what they have provided is you can directly disable the data sharing via mountable USB or the mountable things. So there is only one port which is the downside of the device, right? Where you can connect any mountable media. So that you can directly prevent.
Yes. And I had one more question. There's a lot of discussion around data on DLP.
Right.
Even though your laptop is an endpoint,
Right.
our focus is going back to AT&T, right? Someone downloaded customer data.
Right.
Now, let's say you download it on a laptop, that's fine. But how are you sending it outside the organization? Now, companies have typically used, let's say Microsoft Teams. Now, Teams used to be an internal chatting software.
Right.
Now, they are opening up Teams so that you can chat even outside the organization. So how do you make sure like someone has not downloaded the customer file and is not sending it outside the organization via Teams?
So that classification you need to be made. So basically, we in the software generally how it works is they provide an option to classify your data, that this is the critical data, and they also provide the where it can be shared or where it cannot be shared. So how you need to restrict it down is basically if it's a company on device, first you need to ensure only the assigned company email should be logged in there. If only that particular session is being created into the Teams, so you are ensuring that only my work email is accessed there. Now, if someone is sending the data, now it's in your hand that you want to restrict it completely or you want to specify that only specific sensitive data should not be shared, or maybe specific groups of people can be shared.
Where do you implement that? Can you implement
DLP part.
Okay.
It's in the DLP part.
Okay. But can you implement that in like Teams where you can say if it's going to your internal one, you can send it. If it's not going internal, can't be, let's say you're chatting with a person who is external to the domain.
Right.
Can't be sent.
That kind of integration I need to check. But probably with the DLP only, it can be possible.
Okay.
We need to check if we can identify the user is outside the organization or not. Definitely we can do the same thing on the email security. Like on the email security part, we can definitely do this. That particulars you are sharing the data within the organization or outside the organization. But for a specific chatting application of Team, I need to check.
And one last question. What about WhatsApp? There's a lot of push for WhatsApp employees are pushing that we install WhatsApp on your office laptops.
I suggest you should stop using WhatsApp because WhatsApp is not the right one, the product which you use for the organization perspective. You should be using the Google Workspace itself or maybe the email provider which your organization using, because WhatsApp generally they use with their personal number. So either you should provide a specific dedicated number to them, which is company provided, and they should use the WhatsApp business application rather than personal one.
But the challenge in WhatsApp business also is the policy of privacy. So if you see WhatsApp policy, they says that any data you put on WhatsApp is open to all the entire Meta family.
Okay.
Facebook can use it, Insta can use it, right? The policy, is that different for WhatsApp business? Because what I read, even if you put it on, if you have a business account and you're putting it on WhatsApp business, still it's accessible to Meta, still it's accessible to Insta. And people are saying that, if I'm chatting with someone and say, hey guys, I'm planning to go to Goa, next day I'm seeing a Facebook ad that says, yes, great.
But they are not accepting quite well because they have written over their end-to-end encryption data there. So obviously,
I mean, the encryption is fine.
Yeah.
I know there's no man in the middle attack.
Right.
But privacy is not there. If I'm chatting on a business account with another business colleague,
right,
it's a business to business, it's a B2B connection.
Right.
They are making it a B2 cloud connect. Yeah, I mean, everything is on the cloud now.
That needs to be checked again, because for the WhatsApp implementation, what we generally recommend is to stop using it, because there is no as such security over there. Because the application is the third-party application. So if you have trust over there that this application can be used, then only you should allow it for your business. Otherwise, you can go ahead with the Slack or maybe other chatting application. Hangout is there. So other application you can use for it.
Hi everyone. I joined few minutes late, so presentation was started. My name is Mahendra. I work in Tech Mahindra as an associate security consultant.
Okay.
I found this presentation was very unique and one of the finest presentation I attended. Everything was there. So recently I did a gap assessment for a security client. For all the control areas, I found the gap. So I work in GRC, so mostly the governance, risk and compliance part, the compliance you were talking, HIPAA and GDPR, we also take care of that. So the quick question here, you talked about those shadow IT, DLP and CAS-B. So
Right.
I found these are the gaps in my client. So if I give them as recommendation, I also said that we should do in first initial days, we should look for the shadow ITs.
Right.
So I wanted to take some tips or some suggestion from you. How do you ensure, those, because if the application whitelisting was not there, and they also have some mobile devices. You in the recommendation part, you talked about the proper IDEM and then MDM, and then
Right.
the last one was something on I was noticing. So I think if you just give some tips on the two parts, shadow IT, if you are for a client, what will be the recommendation on this side?
So first of all, what we need to check is how the current infrastructure within their organization. First, we need to identify that. Then only I can provide you the right set of solution and right set of security practice. So what we can do, there is for anyone, if any has another question, I am at the Innovation Hub booth after this meeting or this particular session. So you can just, we can have a meeting over there, discuss about the current infrastructure they have, and then I can suggest you the best policies which we can implement. So I guess we are limited time. So your feedback is important. So if you can just quickly scan it. For another questions, we can have separately.
Just a small one.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. Yeah, Suraj here. So my question is regarding something at a hardware level. So BIOS is something that I can use to enable and disable port.
Right.
So what should be the policies that we should implement around the BIOS security in terms of endpoint protection?
So even if you enable the ports from there, when someone tries to transfer the data, it checks that specific where it's going. So our agent, like the DLP agent, is into the system itself, and it tracks all the data monitoring. So whenever the data transferring from one location to another location, it checks and prevent it over there at the process level itself. So even if you enable it and it detects, there's no use of it.
Yeah, so basically there can be two different things, right? One, I'm taking data from my USB drive to the computer, or I can just copying some data from my work computer to the pen drive.
So DLP generally checks for the another way, like endpoint to USB. Like whenever data is going outside of your devices, not coming inside your devices. So both can be checks, like outside can be checked also and the coming one also.
Okay, but what if we just add some policy around BIOS and not gonna allow these policies to be changed?
That can
Like
be,
just blocking the BIOS, not to change anything, so that I can even not gonna enable those ports at all.
but sometime for use you need to whitelist those devices. Like someone wants that I want.
Team is gonna do that. Those all things I don't have to care about it. But at a user level, as an employee, I should not have access to all those things.
Right. That can be disabled.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks. I got the answer. Thank you.
Okay.
I get so
Yeah.
I'm from managing in the state, both on the endpoint security.
Okay. So I observe many of the endpoint in store conditions. Okay. So so should we consider these in store endpoint as a active inventory part, or how we can increase our compliance? Secondary, because manufacturing industry, many of the endpoints connected with directly machines. Okay. So considering the ISMS or ISO 27001 framework, okay, how we can increase our compliance with regard to the patching as well as the security updates?
So for that, I guess, like what kind of OS you are using?
Mostly Windows.
Windows OS. So with the management of the MDM, you can achieve that, because you can do the patch management over there with that tool, and also you can manage what kind of application should be there and everything inside the Windows that you can manage over there. So I guess you should explore for the MDM tool for that.
Okay. And should we consider in-store assets under active inventory? These are increasing the non-compliance.
Yeah, you can consider it in a way where if it's managed by your IT admin, then you can consider it in a compliant way. Because what generally compliances are is the devices which you are providing to your employees should be managed by you. So even if you buy from the store and enroll the devices into any MDM portal, and that can be managed by IT admin, it can be compliant. That's fine, I guess.
Okay. And last one, any best tool for managing patching for the Linux kind or AIX?
There are many tools over the internet. So I guess MDM tool you need to explore for Linux one as well.
For patching?
Yeah. For patching, there is some separate tools as well. Patch management tools are also there, which only takes care of the patch management part. But there are MDM tools which handles both the things.
MDM we have.
Okay.
For the patching, especially for Linux and AIX.
We need to check according to your what exactly application you are using, because that needs to be compatible as well with the existing MDM.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.